Love them or hate them, MAPPA is an incredible studio that has put out a lot of work that people absolutely love, and it's pretty much put them at the forefront of the anime industry for quite a while now. For me personally, I've always been fascinated with what really is the inner workings of MAPPA themselves. I kind of went into it when I got into the interview with the CEO Manabu Otsuka, and how this company itself sort of pivot from what typical studios do and try to build themselves up and gain attention at the same time, also demanding more money and more share for the project they work on. It was a way for them personally in order to build themselves up. But of course, there's a lot of negativity that comes from how they're sort of trying to bullet to the front of the line, so to speak. They're trying to gain the attention and gain the reputation that a lot of studios have building up for, 20, 30, 80 years. And that, of course, brings us to the newest interview that has come out of MAPPA, which is the Vice President, Hiroya Hasegawa. Now, Hasegawa has only recently joined MAPPA and has quickly kind of moved him in the position of being a producer for a lot of their projects. Here recently of Ranma 1/2, the remake. But what I found really interesting in this interview is really kind of getting into sort of his mindset on the industry itself, the difficulties and the challenges that different individuals face when they come into the industry. Yes, stating a couple things that could be very, very much so frowned upon. The idea of the expectations that people have coming into the industry only to quickly be chewed up and spit out. But let's just jump right into it. I want to start from the very beginning so we get a sense of who Hasegawa himself is. I don't want to jump immediately to the quotes that everybody wants to know about. Let's flesh through this. There'll be timestamps down below if you want to skip, though. This is an interview that was done by RealSound JP. It opens up with what you want to know about the animation studio is a series exploring the uniqueness of animation studios through interviews with staff members. This sixth involvement delves into the appeal of MAPPA from the perspective of Hiroya Hasegawa, the studio's production department, producer, and vice president. In less than a decade since its founding in 2011, MAPPA has become a leading animation studio representing the Japanese anime industry, known for producing a large number of high-quality works and focusing on rights businesses. It has grown into a studio whose movements are constantly watched by anime fans both domestically and internationally. Got that damn straight. Which again, this whole segment right here does emphasize the fact that yes, this is a studio that is very, very young by standards of all the other animation studios. Yes, there's a lot of animation studios right now that are popping up every 2 seconds, it feels like. But this is not only one that has popped up very recently, but it has come to the forefront. Like, it is in the front of the line now. And there's a lot of other studios that have been around for, forever. And they're not even getting as much attention as MAPPA is. But yes, there's a lot of attention that's coming to fans themselves. And that comes with a lot of the properties that they are adapting. They're adapting properties that are very, very successful, which he's going to get into in a minute. What kind of attitude does MAPPA have towards anime production? We spoke to Hasegawa, who served as animation producer for the 2024 hit? It wasn't that popular, at least. I don't remember it being ranking very high in Japan. But anyways, Oblivion Battery, and producer for Ranma 1/2, and who became company's vice president in 2023. Let's start by hearing about how you joined MAPPA. Hasegawa says, I left my previous company due to the continuation of 2 projects, The Ancient Magus' Bride and Vinland Saga. Since Mr. Yabuta, the director of Vinland Saga, was already at MAPPA, he suggested, can't we produce Vinland Saga Season 2 at MAPPA? That's how it started. At that time in 2020, MAPPA had a large number of productions compared to other companies. Yeah. So personally, I thought it would be difficult to take over a project that wasn't planned. Later, I was given the opportunity to discuss with President Otsuka Manabu and Mr. Yabuta. Thankfully, they readily agreed, and my perception of MAPPA changed a bit. Through this process and connection, I joined MAPPA. Yeah, this is the sad reality of the company itself, and it's what everybody kind of is. I think it was why there's so much attention upon them, is that they're doing so much stuff, and even with that amount of stuff they're doing high quality stuff. And typically what comes from that is very strict schedules and people being pushed to the limits. That's why you have so much outcry for how bad this company is everybody's frustrated with how much work they're pushing these people to do and the schedules they have to meet and all that overtime they have to do in order to get it done. That I think pretty much in all cases aren't getting paid for. And so yes, when he's looking from the outside in, he's like, wait, you guys can't do these 2 things because you're already doing so much other stuff. And they're like, yeah, sure, we know how to milk people, don't worry. What's the difference between the companies you've been with and MAPPA? He says, as I mentioned earlier, we have a large number of productions, so I think it's a company with many opportunities. If you have something you want to create and have the persuasiveness to attract people, you can challenge yourself or become a producer, even if you're early on in your career. I think this is kind of an interesting thing. This is, of course, all machine translated, AI translated. It was a little bit difficulty here in how it was actually translating this stuff, but it is basically mentioning the idea that, yeah, even if you're young in your career, there's opportunities here. You just have to know how to push. You gotta be after something. Like, they're looking for people that are looking to be successful. Also, I feel a great sense of service. We always keep in mind how to get the audience excited about the work. While the primary goal of production company is create animation visuals, MAPPA has a department in charge of business such as merchandising, event planning, distribution, and promotion, so we can actively work on utilizing the visuals we create in-house. This is the stuff that I really am fascinated with. Again, putting aside hatred for MAPPA and, again, a lot of the outcry that comes from the animators and what they're doing wrong. I like to look at what they're doing right, because I think there is a lot of what MAPPA is doing that I think other studios should pick up on. Pick up on things like this, making it part of their goal to be more a part of that pie from the production side of things. They're focused on actually getting in there to those production committees and being a part of it and saying, we want a slice of this. We have all these visuals that we create. We don't just want to slap it into the finished product and send it to the television. No, we want to take that art that we did right there and we're going to sell it over here. We're going to take our character designs right here and we're going to sell it over here. We want to be a part of what this thing is going to make. It's too much of the idea that most of these studios are just waiting for somebody to come to them and say, make this project. We're going to pay you measly amounts of money. This is a different case where when they came in here, and this is, again, a lot in the interview with Otsuka, they were getting the idea that, yes, what they decided to do was, yes, they were trying to turn things out quickly and trying to get to the front of the line as fast as possible. They were trying to get reputation. They wanted people to see them as, when you go to MAPPA, you're getting something of quality. You're getting good stuff. And so they can ask for more. They were getting to that bargaining table and saying, no, we don't just want to animate it and you pay us measly money. We want a part of this. We want a part of what this is going to make. And that's what they're doing here. And they're doing all this other stuff, their promotions and whatnot. And especially gets into more detail with that stuff with the actual, when it comes to originals, because it doesn't have what it was originally established, the source material, to give it that early bump to be popular. No, we gotta create the popularity. Again, the stuff that I like about MAPPA is sort of how they're innovating what a studio itself does, because I think there's too many other studios that just rely on what measly money they get, and then it turns into the same issue where people are underpaid. How do you, Hasegawa, view the differences and significance of planning original works versus adaptations of existing works? In the case of adaptations, we recognize that there are already fans who support the original work, and it's thanks to their support that we have the opportunity to create an animation version. So our first priority is to make fans of the original work happy. On the other hand, the original work, no one has seen them before, so we have to think about how to attract as many people as possible. Therefore, it's necessary to create them with a relatively clear target and appeal. What is important for that is that the director's vision is truly core. We have to try to carefully listen to and pick up what the director wants to create. It's very interesting. And again, that's a lot to do with that. A lot of those departments where they're trying to branch out more and pull in that appeal, rather than, again, just slap the label on it, put on television, hope something comes from it. And I think that's really true with a lot of original works that I see. It's typically crickets around it. That's the sad thing. Like, every time I see an original work, I get excited because it's something new. It's something that doesn't have a source material. You can have sources going, let me tell you about the entire story because, oh my gosh, I have the knowledge. I have to bestow my knowledge because I went through the strenuous efforts of reading a manga. I have to tell everybody the knowledge I know. It's completely new, and nobody knows how it's going to turn out. But again, it's sad that whenever you see those and I get excited about them, nobody cares. I think one of the rare cases of an original that actually blew up was probably Lucas Sequoia, and that had a lot to do with a lot of the different individuals that were kind of trying to prop it up, like Kojima. How our original project at MAPPA established. We always want to work on the interesting things, regardless of time. Sadly, so we continue development behind the scenes, and then select and materialize from amongst them while observing trends. There are a lot of employees who want to create original works. I think this is actually interesting. If this is saying what I think it's saying, this is actually really cool, because I think there is an aspect of originals where it's so focused on the actual creative mind of who writes it. They're trying to work behind the scenes to sort of give them things to kind of work with, which, again, if it's saying what I think it's saying, it's actually very creative, and it's actually a solid move. With anime adaptations of popular manga gaining attention, what do you, as a producer, think are the difficulties and merits of original projects? The merits is that we can freely create the world itself and develop the character's drama within it. On the other hand, we have to be more aware of the risks than with projects based on existing works. Yeah, again, you're starting from zero. Every time they do an original, it starts from zero. With right now, we have essentially Zenshu. Now, that's not theirs. They are animating it, but they're not the actual producers. Even with that project, it's crickets around it. Nobody cares. A person animating. I mean, it had jokes in the first week. People were going, look, MAPPA's creating an anime about somebody being overworked. They weren't necessarily being overworked. They're the person creating the overwork. The main character's creating the overwork. But it's crickets. I mean, it's got amazing visuals and everything. Nobody cares. It's not Jujutsu Kaisen. It's not the bigwigs. It's not Demon Slayer. Again, it's a lot to do with starting from zero. It's a massive risk. Every original is a massive risk. You're also working on the remake of the masterpiece Ranma 1/2. Remake projects seem like they're increasing throughout the industry. What do you think about the difficulties and significance of remakes? I love this stuff. I love there's so many great remakes coming. I thought rebooting Ranma 1/2 would be really difficult, even just the casting. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since the show came out. The last anime adaptation of Ranma 1/2, been so long, and they wanted to keep the same seiyus. Even just the casting, whether to ask new people or have the previous cast continue, is a big decision. Yeah, and that's the difficulty is one, it's the people themselves have to agree to it. They have to want to still voice the characters. Then you have the other problem is, when they have to choose to do somebody else, people are going to get upset about it. The fans are going to get upset about it. Where's my original seiyu for this? However, first and foremost, I didn't want to look like we were negating the old work. We got this opportunity because the old work is a masterpiece and still has many fans. That's crazy as long as it's been, it still has a massive fandom. It's an OG, man. It's just an OG. We produce it while giving great thought, including with staff, on how to approach while respecting the old work. That's cool. Now, like I've said before, I think they're doing actually a better job than I think the original one. I mean, there's still really great shots and animation pieces from the original that didn't do so well with the new one. I'm not going to say that's it surpasses it in every way. I just think it's a great modernization of that old piece, giving it an extra polish that you get from a modern anime work. At the same time, I like the fact that they're sticking to the manga, whereas despite the fact that they're taking away the nudity, versus with the last anime adaptation, they were adding a lot of scenes. By the way, how do you, as a producer, balance quality and business budget? Here we go. We're getting to the juicy stuff now. Let's start getting to the juicy stuff now. I don't think every work necessarily has to reach a certain line. I think it's necessary to first present the quality that the audience is looking for each work in a way that is easy as possible for the surrounding staff to understand. I think that's interesting, the idea that they're obviously keeping in mind what the audience will want. I mean, that's an easy bar to kind of set. Okay, this has to look good. What's the bar? It's not like they're taking a sample of the audience in and going, yeah, what do you think of this little clip right here? Good? All right, cool. Thank you. We'll call you back in a week. No, it's literally is this going to look good? But I think there is probably an element in here, which he's not really saying, but he could be getting into what is the expectation? What is the expectation with this property that has this unique style in the anime or the manga itself? How do we turn that into an actual anime adaptation? Budgets vary from project to project, so it's difficult to maintain balance unless we align our perspectives. In that sense, I think the quality lines set for Vinland Saga and Oblivion Battery, which I've been involved with, are different. Yeah, between these two? Yeah. Yeah, Vinland Saga probably had a massive budget for it. However, we want to value the MAPPA brand, so we have many people in the company, including Otsuka, check the quality to ensure that we don't release anything that would make people think, is this the best MAPPA can do? You guys kind of put yourself in that hole. It's one of those unfortunate thing with Jujutsu Kaisen. It's you're setting that expectations for people that every fight scene has to be this incredible, and they have to keep wanting up themselves. They got to keep that quality up there. It's sad, and I think that's probably something that Ufotable has to deal with as well. Now, here's the juicy stuff. Are there initiatives you're trying regarding human resource development? In the animation and direction department, we plan to actively hire new graduates from next year, expand the scope of their work while looking at their aptitudes, and give them opportunities as quick as possible. It's kind of nice here, the idea of kind of bringing in new grads, and they're probably going to bring them in very low pay, get them in there, start working them. But at least there looks like it's an aspect here where they're trying to nurture them and bring them in further. Again, it always comes down to that hope that when you're bringing them in there, you're actually treating them properly and that you are going to pay them properly. That's always the hope. But again, that's something I've always kind of said with several things is I think with a lot of other studios, they're facing a shortage of animators. They're losing people on a regular basis, and they're not nurturing the people they're bringing in. They're not hiring them in, giving them proper pay, and building on their skill sets. I think that's a big problem that a lot of studios have. Also, I'm currently working on various considerations to find a way to educate that allows one person to impart technical skills equally to multiple people. That's interesting. I guess the idea of kind of spreading around technical skills from one individual in order for them to actually have more people able to actually do, and that makes sense. The idea of having multiple projects that are constantly working on, you have one very skilled person and trying to, I guess, figure out how they can impart those skills upon other people. I guess that's kind of what he's talking about there, which again is if they're looking to expand and not just overwork individuals and actually expand, bring in more people, staff more people so that all these projects they're working on doesn't have to flow upon one person and just basically kill them. They can actually work on having a broader company itself. It's a good thing. What kind of challenges are facing the production industry? Also, if you have any ideas on what's necessary to overcome them, please let us know. Here we go. There are countless challenges, but not just at MAPPA. In recent years, unlike when we joined, there had been an increase of people who casually come into contact with animation. So we are... Wait, calm down, everybody. Wait. So there are many cases where a gap arises when they actually get involved in anime production. It's like, it's a different world than what I imagined. I've seen interviews where they talk like this, and it's kind of surprising because of how much exploitation you hear about in the industry, but I think there is like twofold here. One end, you have to realize that this is sort of, unfortunately, kind of normal in Japan for a lot of companies. It's what produced the concept of the black company. It's something that is actually present in Japan. The idea of you work in your job for the rest of your life. You're in there all night. You're sitting at your desk. Literally, lights are out outside. Everybody's gone home to sleep, and you're still working at your company because you don't want that work to go on to somebody else. You feel an obligation to fulfill your role in the system. And I guess that's why they don't really see it before they get into it. They expect it's going to be something fun. At least be Shirobako, because even with Shirobako, it wasn't that bad. Like, that wasn't even a bad portrayal, like a horrific portrayal of the anime industry. I see so many interviews where they are surprised by it. This is my dream. I wanted to get into this, and it's not fun. It's stressful. It's hard work. However, it's pointless to actively emphasize that animation is tough. So I'm thinking about how to bridge that gap. Interesting. Again, this sounds bad, but this is actually interesting. Rather than constantly repeat what the issue is, and again, I acknowledge this, it's not changing. What's the point in constantly pointing it out? It's everywhere. Like, it's in every animation studio. Every animation studio is dealing with this. Yes, there's going to be a few of them that are like, wow, they're actually doing really good here. Everybody loves this company. But in most cases, all these animation studios, they all have this problem. We only see MAPPA because MAPPA is doing Jujutsu Kaisen, and everybody's watching the animators like hawks, waiting for them to say how they're stressed out. And they go, look, but all the studios are doing it. He's saying it's there. There's no point in pointing it out. But I'm thinking about how to bridge the gap. What is that gap? Is the gap just that issue that people find when they first arrive there? In terms of work style, there seems to be an increase of number of people who want to separate work and private life and find balance, even in the production field. In line with the times, it's important for companies to take the stance that they won't allow work styles that don't allow that balance. Okay, W. It's important for companies to take the stance that they won't allow work styles that don't allow for that balance, a work and private life balance. W, rather than leaving it up to the individuals. I guess he could have be technically saying that right here that you can choose to overwork yourself, but we're not going to give you the choice. That might be a rough translation there. So keep that in mind again, but that's sort of sound what he's saying there. But yeah, I will emphasize here, and this is something that I've always kind of struggled with my criticisms of MAPPA. Like, under no circumstances is overworking people good. It is never. Though I do come from a life experience of expecting that. Like, I have had jobs where I do it here, but I'm doing something I love. I work on projects and anime and watch anime and put together outlines and stuff like that for this channel 24/7. Like, I literally never get a break. But it's something I choose because I enjoy it. I have fun doing it. Yes, there's times where I'm like, I kind of wish I didn't have to do something for at least this morning. But other than that, I enjoy it. But I've had jobs, literally the job that I left was stressful as hell. I was on call 24/7 with any problem that even hiccuped in a warehouse. I had to constantly be on the phone for entire weekends looking for a supply because we lost this other supply. I have had the experience of literally being stressed nearly 24/7 with my previous job. So I look at issues like this where somebody's like, well, I had to work up overnight. Okay. Like me personally, I've experienced it so much in my lifetime that it's like, it's a job then, right? That's what jobs do. But that's me. And that's not to say that should be normal. That shouldn't be normal. People working overnight under their desks, sleeping on the desk because they literally don't have time to go home and sleep, or they're just passed out. That's not normal. So it's like there is a struggle with me of kind of seeing things like that, of like, yeah, they come in here and they don't realize how tough it is. It's a job. But I think there is the other opposite end of it, and it's similar to what was talked about in that Bloomberg article that we talked about last week, I believe it was, where there's individuals in the industry that are acknowledging the fact that a lot of individuals that come into the anime industry, animators and artists and whatnot, they're people that, yes, they're good at art because they're probably introverts. They probably aren't good with socializing people because that's what they did. They're not good with socializing people, and they just kind of just stayed on their side and they drew. That's where the artists come from, is people that are not very social with people. A lot of artists aren't very social. And so those individuals, yes, coming into an environment that's rough, yeah, it's a little bit harder on them to be able to accept or push back or ask questions or really kind of raise their voice and say, stop doing this to me. It's too much. So that it's kind of a multiplier. It's like on one end, work is tough. I've experienced it. Work is tough. You're going to work 24/7 sometimes. And in some cases, like there was a period of time where I was having to do a lot of data entry for a software transition. And I literally was doing all of my normal work at this time, and then overnight data entry. Like I literally got barely any sleep. Why? I wasn't getting paid for it. Why was I doing it? For the job. It was the hope that my efforts would be acknowledged. They didn't, by the way. The efforts being acknowledged and you rising up. And that's what a lot of people hope for in the anime industry. They're hoping they're going to be able to rise up. Okay, deal with this now, and hopefully eventually I'll become an animation director, or I'll become a key artist or something like that. I'll become the character designer, something higher up, so that I can have more freedom and have more money, and then I'll be able to do what I love so much, while at the same time be able to actually pay for more than just cup ramen. And sadly for a lot of people, they probably break and they walk away from it. You, Mr. Hasegawa, are from Gonzo, and you're good friends with producer from the companies who are currently active, such as Fukushi from Madhouse, Fukushima from Cloverworks. Do you stimulate each other? Do you work with each other? I guess that's what it's meaning to be. Yes, we do. I often go out and eat with those two. Although we're from the same company, we were only together for about 2 years. After that, I moved to Production IG, Fukushima moved to A1 Pictures, Fukushi moved to Madhouse. However, this is like a powerhouse team right here. However, it wasn't just us. There were many people who are still active producers who were at Gonzo at the time. We don't gather together often, but we keep in touch with each other. In our case, we all started at the same place. And since none of us quit animation production, it's a natural environment for us to communicate with people of other companies. At MAPPA, the younger producers are still in the process of building those connections with other companies. I think that's cool to kind of make those connections across the board, share ideas, share teams and whatnot. So you want them to absorb more from other companies. Each company has a different culture, and I've worked with several companies so far. I believe that can definitely be utilized in other companies. And again, I think this is where different cultures and whatnot for the different companies. Yeah, I can see this aspect of really kind of utilizing a lot of what they're doing with production and whatnot in other companies. Again, this is something I kind of seen in the interviews with like Otsuka and stuff like that I kind of wish other companies would pick up on, just to get more revenue into the companies and pay people more. And it wraps it up with, do you have anything you want to tell people who are aiming for the anime industry in the future? The commercial anime we create may have opportunities to learn about it in vocational schools or universities, but you can't acquire this scale of production through practical training. So it'll be your first attempt when you join a company. It's rare to succeed immediately with your first attempt, so don't think you're not suited for it just because you fail once. There are fewer people who succeed from the beginning. I think it's good to expect yourself to grow and try your best with a little patience. It's very vague about what it's talking about there. It's very vague about what it's talking about that. It's going to be hard when you join us. I worked for a company for literally not even a week, who after like this brief training period, they literally come in the room and say, just so you know, You're probably not going to have breaks for entire days and whatnot. It's gonna be a lot of work. You're gonna have a lot of overtime, but don't complain. People complained before, nothing happened. I'm like, well, that's a good way to start this company. I mean, it's good. A good point here. Again, it's the idea of like, again, what he was saying earlier. A lot of people come in here and they go, "This is not what I was expecting. This isn't the dream that I had of what an anime industry would be like and being an animator." And there's that shock that happens. I had this dream, this hope. I'm gonna create the next Ghibli film. I'm gonna make cool animation. I get to draw all the characters that I love so much. And then they go to school, and at school they get all the skills and all this other stuff that they need to do. You know, draw the circle, draw it again, draw it again. Then they go into the actual industry, and they're like, "What is this? What is this?" I don't know. I guess he could be mentioning the idea of skill sets themselves, but I guess there's more of an aspect here probably of like going in there and it not really turning out right, and the idea of the expectations that they have for what they need to draw and what kind of quality they have. But again, it goes back to that whole thing that I keep saying about MAPPA. I hate the overwork. I hate seeing how stressed out people are, you know, the comments that are made on social media and stuff like that of how overworked they are. But it's a company that I can't help but not look away from when it comes to how they do things. I think there's something that can be learned here. It's like the whole aspect of you can look into something and see how malicious it is, but inside there somewhere you can probably see something they're doing that's actually very clever. There's actually something in there that's actually doing good. And I think, again, if a lot of other companies can kind of learn from MAPPA and learn from the good things and not the bad things from MAPPA, which, again, I think a lot of other studios do all those bad things too. MAPPA's not the only bad guy. A lot of companies in Japan are all perfectly fine with overworking people and paying very measly amounts. Yes, there's a side of me that hopes that and would hope that MAPPA would be paying these individuals for how much they're pushing them, because, again, there's a lot of signs that MAPPA is essentially bringing in a lot more money than a lot of other studios are. And that is through a lot of the efforts they put into their production groups. They have, like he was talking about at the very beginning of this interview, he's talking about how they have literally a group that does nothing but marketing and research and stuff like that. They're paying another entirely separate group in order to figure out how much money they can bring into this company. And again, a lot of it has to do with the sort of what Otsuka himself was kind of putting together, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure who all was involved in that whole thing. Otsuka talked about it. Having a group of people that is literally trying to figure out how they can get themselves that position of asking for more and putting themselves more in the position of being able to make a lot of this money, that's interesting. And I think a lot of companies should do that and then take that money and give it to, you know, again, nurture the individuals that you have in there. But I do understand there's a side of it, and I think they started getting that, and it's sort of implied that, yes, a lot of that money they were getting extra is not like an insane amounts, but it was being put towards something else. It's investing into something else. What was that? Chainsaw Man. They wanted to let's try to do 100%, you know, production for this, you know, be able to get the biggest piece of the pie possible from this, and they did it. It was something that, in the end, he's like, yes, we made our money back. We were happy. But it's a risk, and we don't know if we want to try that again. It was probably like dumping a massive amount of money and then going, God, I hope this makes it back. And it does, but it's like, that was too scary, dude. It was too scary. But anyways, that's the interview. Just wanted to go through here and check this stuff out. Some interesting bits in here. And again, I think there's some of this that some people can see as kind of heartless in the way that it's kind of described about, expectations of what the anime industry is. But again, it's cool insights into this company that I always kind of eat up. So hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, hit the like button down below, comment. Let me know what you think of this whole interview. If you like this content, you want to support channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it. But until next time, y'all take care.